So this is CAP 722. Recently changed some of the wording and lines in the actual VLOS. Some of things that keep in the orientation, and obviously being a Mini 3 pilot for Mini 3 of a small drone, this is going to be an issue where originally I think you could fly up to 500 meters without breaking compliance. Now they're kind of much more defined in what they say you're supposed to do. So all the original 500 meters is no longer kind of what they say is compliance. And any vehicle, included the actual screen that's built into the actual M33 device, which comes with the Mini 3 Pro. But obviously it depends. This is for all drones, not just for the DJI drones or anything like that. So it's basically rules that cover all drones, no matter how well the drone is designed, or also remote aircrafts or things like that, which you have to use visual line of sight all the times, otherwise you will crash. But obviously Mini drones are very different. Some drones can't do what other drones can. On the actual main drone code page here, so originally you could go up to, so I'm not sure if it's stated here 500, or it did have originally, or they've just removed things. So it used to be that you could fly up to 500 meters, but now they're sort of defined that 500 meters is not. They defined it, you have to keep the drone in visual, not just a visual in terms of, as because some people say a dot in the sky. It has to be the actual with the drone, seeing the drone actual orientation. So you must be able to see your drone or model aircraft clearly enough that you can tell which way it's facing. This is so that you can steer the drone and control safely, even if something happened unexpectedly. You must be able to see it without using any binoculars, telescope lens, electrical viewing equipment such as your smartphone, which would be other thing, tablets, or I presume they also include DJI's inbuilt screen, which comes with the controller itself. This is November 2020 version of CAP 722. So here it does talk about the 500 meters. For example, if an aircraft is larger, it may be adjustable that its flight path can be monitored visually in greater distances than 500 meters. Conversely, if some small aircraft operates out in a distance of 500 meters, may mean it is not possible to assume and maintain adequate visual contacts, and so the aircraft must observably be kept closer to the remote pilot. So this was back November for the CAP 722. So this is where the 500 meters basic rules. The CAAs will normally accept that VLOS requirements is met when they use UA is followed out at a distance of 500 meters from the remote pilot, but only the aircraft can still be seen at this distance. So basically it does say that you can see it at a distance, or should be seen at a distance. And I think the thing with 500, because people think 500 meters, even especially with the small drones, it's usually about half that, where they drone 250 to about 300 meters, where they more or less disappear, often from the sky, and this obviously varies with the conditions. But so I mean, that's not essentially was supposed to be that it's just 500, was supposed to be more of a rough estimate, I think, of what you were allowed to fly visually, but obviously because a lot of the small drones are now flying around, I think people have misunderstood the distance. So I just want to kind of get an idea of how it differs for, I think basically the visual distance for visual line of sight where you can determine the orientation. Obviously you can see probably about, I would say actual VLOS typically for the mini drone would be about 250, 300, but I say the drone becomes small enough that you can't actually see which way it would facing, probably about 100 meters, maybe 120 meters. So if I was there, I probably wouldn't be able to orientate unless it actually was moving side to side. Downloaded the flight logs I took when I was flying actually around the cathedral itself. So home point where I was standing. So 124. So in theory, so I think if we talking about the where I can actually see the distance, where I can see the orientation from here, and this was only for DJI. I'd be around. I'd say about here's where I could probably see come as close as here, and I could actually see the or which direction the drone is orientated. Probably I might be less than that. I've not had much opportunity to really test it out just by watching the drone. I could definitely say which direction the drone is moving once I'm moving the drone, but I wouldn't have been able to know. I'm not sure if I can determine the orientation. I would be obviously up to this point if I stopped to sent the drone to this point and moved it and turned it sideways and then moved it, I could probably say roughly, but then again I would be filming it, so it's kind of, the kind of this looking at the drone to determine its orientation, you'd be looking at the screen so it have particular shot of or orbit. It's done all manually. I just watching as I going around and trying to keep. I should be keeping this X about here, ideal position when doing a circle. You do have spotlights, so you can go. That's more of like an automatic mode, so it will keep exact position as it goes around the center here. And then did spotlight, I could just, all I'd have to do is one stick movement, and I can watch the drone going around without ever looking at the controller, and just watch the drone. Obviously, as soon as the drone is not visible, which was about, say, I would say about 250 meters. Obviously, from the position of where I should take off, I think it would be the only other position would be here and then position, but if I move, this tower would get in the way, and that would interfere, and being a big tower, it might even go into the controller red. I don't know how well it would do. Obviously, the only way would be to test it, but you would have that big building. Buildings are much more affected than the trees, in my opinion. And obviously, at maximum altitude, you can see this. If this represents me, the drone is here. The drone where the drone is looking. So as I go around, you can see the drone is facing, pointing side on. So I'm actually about there. So that's why there's one bar loss in the signal, because I'm actually slightly behind the tree there. So I'm standing obviously close, just behind the home point. and as the drone rotates, it more or less comes almost to uh, facing. So this is a useful screen for determining your actual orientation relative to the drone. Obviously, I know where I am. I took off from, so I know I'm about there somewhere. Don't actually know if I can see yourself. So more or less facing each other. If I was to take off here and this side, and then I was to go do it from up this side and then take off, and then try to, if I was to go this side, obviously that would be like 350, 400 meters to get from like the other side of the cathedral. So, and then you'd have this big tower because I'd be lower down, so you'd have the tower in the way. So that's what I'm trying to say why I chose this position. You do get some interference from the trees there. They go slightly to red there, but so obviously with the limited up to, I might be able to determine the orientation there. So I could sort of do a kind of a bit of a circle using spotlight, move from one corner here to here, and then you would be breaking compliance because you'd definitely be in VLOS. As soon as I would be able to look at the controller and then look up, I'd lose where the drone is. So, and if you have to not be looking at the drone, then it'd be in VLOS. Yeah. The rule changes for me personally will be kind of difficult to keep to because a lot of when we say that you have to keep the actual visual rotation of which the drone is facing, this is for me personally more difficult because most of my flights have been greater than 100 meters. So, and I'm usually not always able to stand next to the uh, the building or object, or or for example, if it's a large building, say 50 meters high and around. I'll give as for the example a cathedral. Keeping that orientation or filming is very going to be quite difficult. I just don't see, I know there's certain safety concerns and things like that, and that people may be worried that you're spying on them. I haven't had any personal problems with people. Most people just seem, if they do engage with me, they tend to be interested in what I'm doing. I haven't had any personal problems with people thinking I'm spying on them with a drone, but most of my flights have often been at a higher altitude, so and I don't usually fly that low over people, the majority. I have been doing a few low flights over the beach in sports mode, try and get some good shots, but in terms of a lot of what I've been filming, usually I'm at an altitude, so trying to film with a very more strict kind of be quite difficult because I'm going to be greater than where you keep in the rotation visual orientation of the drone. So I'm not particularly happy with the new changes to the rules.